This story is called Not Yet. I have always loved jewelry. When my husband and I were first married and I was a cub reporter and he was in graduate school, I used to cut those fancy Tiffany ads out of the New Yorker magazine and lay them all over his desk, kind of buy me something. It annoyed the hell out of him, but I couldn't help myself because I've always seen myself wearing important jewels. So, this past December, when my 104-year-old aunt, my 104-year-old Austrian aunt, told me she wanted to leave me her diamonds after she died, well, my heart skipped quite a few beats. We were visiting her at her house in London, as we have for the last few years, thinking that every visit was going to be our last, but somehow it never is. She just keeps on going and confounding us, and this in so many ways. I'd only seen one of her pieces when I was 3 years old. It was a beautiful diamond bracelet with diamond-shaped links, and I kind of pulled it along the floor, calling it snaky. I would like you to see my jewels, she said on the first day we arrived. Would you like to see them? You know, we have to wait until Matt is out of the way. I know he doesn't want you to see them. This is my aunt, the most manipulative Viennese person on the planet. She wants to dangle those jewels in front of me, but not let Matt, this man who has lived with her for 14 years and gradually worked his way into her life and into her house and into her will, and he really plans to sell those jewels himself, so she can tease me with them without letting him know. So I said, sure, I'd love to see the jewels. And we went into her bedroom, and she had me go into her closet, and I pulled out this big jewel case and opened it up on her bed and took out 3 other very soft, buttery leather cases. Garrod's Jewelers to the Queen. And I opened them all up, and oh my God, there were 3 of the most beautiful pieces of jewelry I've ever seen in my life. A pair of diamond earrings the size of walnuts, a great diamond bracelet that I remembered, and the coup de grace, an exquisite Art Deco diamond brooch of flowers and leaves. I mean, looking at it made me think of all those Tiffany ads and the idea that I might own something that beautiful. Well, it filled me with greed is the only word that comes to mind. So, Stella, if you want me to have them, why not give them to me now, I said. Oh, no, she said, I may yet need them. Not yet. And that's when I realized this wasn't really the promise of a future gift. It was just one of her manipulations, and only the first. Because the next thing she said was, I think you should get to know the attorney who has made up my will. You should get a copy of the will. Really, this is an entire about-face for her. Because in the past, the topic of her will was a deep, dark secret, and she didn't want anyone to know until after she died, and then she said she didn't care. Well, I said, sure, I'll call the attorney. And I did. And he said, well, you know, she's got a copy of the will right there in her apartment. If she wants you to see it, she can let you have it. Really, I said. Really, said Stella. Matt, bring me the will. So he did, and it was a pretty straightforward 3-page document. Basically, her main asset is her apartment. It's in a very nice area of London, and so when she died and that apartment was sold, the proceeds would go to me a third, to Matt a third, and to my daughter, Alana, a third. Well, that sort of changed everything. I mean, it's one thing if I'm in her will or not. I mean, we've had a fractious relationship all my life, and I have expected her to give me a plastic clown doll and leave the rest to someone else. But my daughter, you know, she's engaged, she and her boyfriend are getting married next June. They could really use an infusion of cash like that. So I didn't feel so detached. I'm so glad that you are happy, she said. I'm glad you are both happy that you have seen the will. But this was not the case. Matt went out and he must have conferred with someone, because when he came back, he was in a rage and he started screaming at me, "Nothing that you read in that will is going to be true next month." Well, what can I say? I'm not an expert in British inheritance law and I don't live there. I later heard him that night trying to get Stella to get my daughter out of the will and put his daughter in. But at that point, at least, she said, "No, I don't even like your daughter, no." Well, what could I do? I mentioned it to her later and she said, "Now you see what he's like. You know, my attorney doesn't like him and my nurse doesn't like him. They see and now you see." And this is when it occurred to me that she was using me as some sort of protection in case this man who'd been with her for 14 years, tired of the very long wait for her demise and decided to hurry it up a bit. "Are you afraid of him?" I asked. "Oh no," she said, "at least not yet. I think I will outlive him, you know." And she laughed this unpleasant laugh. Well, we went home a few days after that, and once I got back to our side of the Atlantic, some of my lust for her things abated. I mean, I don't have any control over the situation, and I didn't really like the person I was when I wanted those things that badly, kind of a cloak and dagger person who wanted to fool Matt and Stella. I even had a few moments where I thought about going into her closet and just taking those jewels home with me. My short career as a jewel thief. No, you know, they say your greatest enemy is the person who brings out the worst in you. And that may have been my Aunt Stella, you know. I'd like to think that I understand her tricks. But the truth is I haven't learned a thing, because we went back there this month. Yes, we went back and visited Stella, and she was much diminished. She was not in as good health, but one afternoon we're sitting there in the kitchen trying to coax her to eat, and I had gone out and bought chicken schnitzel, which she loves. And suddenly she pipes up with, "Matt, bring me the jewels." And out come these 3 boxes again. She opens them up and she says, "Steffi, put on the bracelet." Ooh, now I was excited. I put it on and you know, it was made for a slender wrist like mine. I thought maybe I'd just leave it on until we left and maybe no one would notice, so I just walked home with it. But no, Matt looked daggers at me and I put it back in its case and took it back to her closet. While I was out, my husband looked at Stella, you know, thinking, this is really the moment she's going to say something. He said, "That's so nice of you, Stella." And she said, "Oh, no, not yet." Well, we went home again. And the weeks passed, and yesterday I got the call that she passed away.
No.
Stella, my maddening, endearing, inimitable aunt with the flame of life that kept her going for 104 3/4 years. She missed 105 by a month. You know, the world will not be as interesting a place without her. And as for my access to the jewels, not yet.
There may come a time when